millionaire means nothing now, man. Like 7 figures, that's like 6 figures back in the day. There's a lot of broke millionaires. There's a lot of people that are rich on paper and paupers in life.
Hi, I'm Tim Bratz, and every week I sit down with the top influential entrepreneurs in the country to discuss how to leave a true legacy in all things happiness, health, wealth, and wisdom. This is the Legacy Podcast. Hey, y'all, welcome to the Legacy Podcast. I am your host, Tim Bratz, and today I got a very special guest. My boy Garrett Gunderson is here, who wrote Killing Sacred Cows, What Would the Rockefellers Do? Books that have hit New York Times bestsellers, and he's somebody that I look up to in the personal finance industry, as well as many other entrepreneurs look up to him and go to him for what he's been able to kind of decipher and break down to a very bite-sized methods of how to put yourself in a better position financially, both for your business and personally in your personal finances. And so Garrett's somebody that I look up to, and I've had him speak on stages with me before. I consider him a great friend. And Garrett, excited to have you here, brother.
Dude, thanks for having me, Tim. I have so much fun at your events. Like the one time you just brought the whole crew. We went to a comedy club and did comedy. Then I spoke the next day. That was super fun out in Nashville, and then out there in Denver with you. I think I met you in Park Cities where we met, which was nice. I just got to drive up and hang out, and love everything that you're up to and how you show up too.
Awesome, brother. Well, thank you for being here. I want to dive into, you do a ton of public speaking. Yeah. You are rubbing elbows with very successful entrepreneurs, people doing 7 figures, people doing 8 figures, people doing 9 figures and 10 figures. And you've been able to consolidate all this information and study what the wealthiest people have done in order to then set themselves up for true legacy wealth, right? Like what we stand for from a financial perspective. When an entrepreneur comes to you and they say, hey, Garrett, here's what I have going on in my business and all this stuff. What does your audit process look like? Let's go through that process. And maybe you could share a little bit about your story and kind of how you become an authority on this. And then I'd love to dive into, like, how do we attack this as entrepreneurs of what should we be paying attention to and looking at?
Dude, I love that you asked that question, because I don't think anyone really asked that question. And we're going to mine some real gold for people through that, because we do this deep dive discovery process where we look in the very first place we go is like, what do their taxes look like? Right? We're finding that 93 to 98% of entrepreneurs, depending on the year, that's the numbers, 93 to 98% are overpaying their taxes. They're literally tipping the government. And when it's like 98%, that's a year where there's a major tax law change and people just don't have a team that's strategizing and keeping up with it. The few times that we find people that aren't overpaying their taxes are people like you that like know tax because you have so much real estate and you're considered a real estate professional and you get that designation. And like, I'm like, great, there's not much you can do when that's near zero, right? Like that's pretty amazing, but the majority of them are overpaying tax. So we start there. We look at what's their corporate structure look like? How are they paying themselves? Are there ways to move active income to passive income for tax purposes, or ordinary income to capital gains? Are we looking and we say, is there any future tax-free options that they can have? Just the way people set up their corporation, if they're a C Corp and they've been around for 5 years, they might qualify for something called 1202, which allows them to sell for up to $10 million tax-free per partner. And a lot of people just don't know that. So they're set up improperly. We make sure that if they have a bunch of real estate, are they charitable in nature? And we can start looking at charitable giving in the future that can actually eliminate tax or allow them to have more cash or even increase their cash flow being charitable. And then we look at just like, what are the basic things that they're missing out on? Are they proactively meeting with their tax team? Have they maximized the simplest things? There's things like Section 199A, which is a qualified business deduction, or 280G, which lets them rent their home out for 14 days a year to their business and get a tax write-off, or 132J, which if they have a gym or a pool or a cold pool, like that gets to write off all the maintenance of that if they make it available to their employees, which we like to have people have a holding company, and that's just their family, so they can always use that for their employees. So like, we look at tax first. Then the second thing is we look at their loans. Do they have the right credit score? Do they have the right cash flow reporting? Do they have the right collateral or connections? And if they don't, are there ways to get better interest rates or restructure or renegotiate or refinance? Then we look at their overall legacy planning. Do they have a will? Do they have a trust? What does it say? Does it do what they want? 99% of the time, it doesn't do what they want it to do. It just divides the money out at certain ages. There's no legacy plan or Rockefeller plan. So this is like I'm going through quite a bit of detail here, but we just look through everything in their finances and go, is there a place where they could plug financial leaks? Is there a place where they're not financially confident? What would they pass a financial stress test in certain areas that would handle different economic factors? Do they have enough liquidity? Have they transferred their risk with asset protection and insurance? Like, that's what we do in our deep dive discovery when we meet with an entrepreneur. And then we do a separate meeting called the report of findings. And we show them, like, here's the range. And what's nice is they don't have to send us their documents. They don't have to, expose all that kind of stuff or gather all that for this part. We just ask them the questions and understand where they're at and what they know and what they don't know. Then the report of findings shows them what the possibilities are. What are the areas where they can actually take care of things? And I guess you asked, how did I come to discover this? Well, I started in financial services in 1998 as a 19-year-old. Sounds cool, but I was basically a product peddling mutual fund and life insurance salesman, right? Bringing family and friends to the boss and, having them present stuff. But when the market went down in the year 2000, I started to really gain my education in finance because I was like, I don't want to tell people the market's on sale. They were over-reliant on stocks. I don't want to tell them they're in it for the long haul. I sure as hell don't want to tell them dollar cost average because I don't want to have average clients. I want them to be extraordinary. And so every month for 26 months, I flew somewhere, used my young age to get in with really, brilliant people, essentially, family offices. I met with, I had a guy that managed $5 billion in municipal bond funds that became my mentor when I was 20 years old. He became a client when I was 22 because I learned certain things that I was able to share with him in this discovery over the 26 months. And the number one thing I figured out was, hey, if I can help people keep more of what they make without having to cut back, that's a guaranteed return. I'm going to become an efficiency expert. I'm going to help them transfer risk. I'm going to help them focus on cash flow. Most advisors sell products. I'm like, hey, if I meet a real estate investor, I want to help them get even more cash flow from real estate. I'm not going to talk them out of go and put in something their money in a place they don't know. I want to enhance what they're up to. What are their exit strategies? Where are their liquidity that they could buy more property? Like, where does that cash flow go in an efficient way? Like, that's what I geek out on and get excited about.
Dude, I love it. And I think and by the way, I've sat through your courses, right? And I've sat through an in-person course where we went through kind of that deep dive and filled out the questionnaire and went through all that stuff. And you guys offered feedback. And I know it feels very overwhelming to people when you rip through as many of those different ideas and strategies all in one place. But at the same time, you guys help hold people's hands through that whole process, and you make it very simple to then attack those things or take those action items to your own CPA to make sure you're asking the right questions. Because most people, they're just not asking the right questions. And I love how you start with the tax bucket, because most people are like, oh, well, let me just go and find a way to make more money, or let me just reduce what I live off of and reduce my lifestyle.
Right.
Where it's like the biggest expense in your life is this tax liability. And if you're not attacking that first, I mean, that's, like you said, a guaranteed return on your money.
Look, man, whether we put it in the show notes or whether I just have people DM me the word legacy so I know it's from you on Instagram at Garrett B. Gunderson, I'll give them my tax navigator. It's a checklist where they can go through all of the main strategies and figure out if they're doing them or not doing them. And there's actually the first few pages of the philosophical construct and then just kind of a little model. So anyone can go through that and be like, oh my God, there's like 20 things here I'm not doing. Because most people, Tim, they have a historian, not a strategist. They just tell them what they owe after the year's over. So I want to give them a checklist so they can just go through. And, Garrett B. Gunderson on Instagram, if you put legacy, I know it's from Tim, we'll hook you up with the tax navigator.
I love it, dude. Well, thank you for offering that. We'll put that in the show notes and stuff too, and tag you obviously on all the different social media stuff.
Perfect.
And then, so I love the tax side of things. Then after that, you're diving into what are you already spending money on, right? Like these are seemingly fixed expenses on these different interest rates, but there's a lot of people, like myself included. There's some loans that I have out there that I know I could get lower interest rates on. It's just, I'm too busy, right? I just have too much other stuff going on. I've never sat down and actually done that. And I have an 830 credit score or whatever it is. Like I have great credit. I have great access to and great financials and a proven track record. I've been in business for a long time. It's just like, it's simple things like that people are not doing that they could easily do and substantially reduce their expenses on an ongoing basis to then expand on their cash flow, right? It's not necessarily just driving revenue and growth all the time. Sometimes it's just being more efficient with what you already have going on.
Right. Like we just met with someone, and when I was talking to him in the report of findings, I was like, hey, look, you're paying a 1% fiduciary fee on your couple $1 million invested. You're paying 1.5% expense ratio, 12B1 fees and all the expenses. That's 2.5%. And Tim, this is the impact. If you even had like $100,000 earning 10% for 30 years, it grows to 1.74 million. If that same $100,000 earns 9.2% because of fees, it only grows to 1.4 million. That's 340 grand. Imagine what 2.5% does. And so I was like, hey, they want to get into real estate. I'm like, well, what if we move this to a place like, I'm not the investment advisor, I hook them up with someone and they get them somewhere where now they're under 1% fee total on everything. So there's that. And they immediately get them a line of credit against that. That's at a really, really low interest rate. We're talking like 2.9% because it's against those assets. And now they have access to go out there and invest in real estate. And they just saved hundreds of thousands of dollars every few years in fees that were just eating away at what they were earning simply because they didn't have time. They're busy. They're entrepreneurs. I totally get it. So I just like to look and say, where's their money slipping through the cracks? How can we put that back in your hands? And how can we make sure that you have capital for your investor DNA? You have an investor DNA in real estate in many different ways, right? Whether it's the software that you build, whether it's the investment deals that you do. So for someone to come and try to sell you on stocks, it's foolish. It's not part of your DNA.
Yep.
It's not where your knowledge is. So I'm here to say, hey, we've got to figure out what the cash flow drivers are for people. It's either going to be real estate, and as you know, there's 1,000 different types of real estate or how that might happen that you create cash flow, or it might be business, right? And business is an amazing way to create cash flow, especially like a SaaS company or something like that you and I were talking about, or intellectual property. You've got all three that you're operating in. Those are the best cash flow drivers that are out there, yet most people don't create cash flow with their investments. They're indoctrinated to save money, wait for 30 years, and then when they're retired, they're supposed to figure out how to create cash flow, never learning how to do it over that 30 years. That's insane, and that's where people are stuck right now. That's why I get really passionate about this kind of stuff. It's like, I want to train people to be better at cash flow, first by keeping more of what they make and plugging leaks, and then second, finding what their drivers are to create income so they can become financially independent, where they have cash flow from assets to cover their expenses. So the way I look at it is like 3 levels. Number one, how do they get financially fit? That's that deep dive that we talked about. How do we get their financial house in order? Number 2, and by the way, if they're spending any time with us, my goal is we have to save them 10 hours for every hour they're with us, just because it's all stuff that we know people are busy. Number 2, how do they become financially independent? You're great at this. How do they create cash flow with assets to cover their expenses? And number 3, how do they become financially free? Financial freedom is a state of mind where people are no longer using money as their reason or excuse to do or don't do something. It's a consideration. It's just no longer the consideration. It's a state of peace of mind and prosperity instead of scarcity. It's a place where they enjoy the process along the way and they're not just scrimping and budgeting and delaying for 30 years. Fit, independent, and free, that's the trifecta.
I love it, man. Powerful, powerful stuff. Have you found that the wealthiest people that you've interviewed and that you've worked with, do they diversify out of the gate, or are they like very narrow in their approach to getting rich, and then once they're rich, that they diversify?
Man, look, I spoke to 20 billionaires in 2021. I spoke, and then I got to hang out with them for 2 days. And every single one got wealthy with extreme focus. They diversified when they had a bunch of money. Now, the diversification, they saw it as a preservation strategy, not a growth strategy. Right. They saw focus as a growth strategy. Like one of the billionaires owns a boatload of gas stations. I mean, I'm talking about a major gas station brand that you see all over the place, and they just continue to buy more, and they have a philosophy and a methodology, and that's their mainstay of what they're doing. Now, at that same event, all of the 20 billionaires got 15 to 20 minutes talking about where they were allocating money and what they were up to and where they needed potential collaboration. But the reality was, every single person I talked to, one was they made all their money in biotech. Another person made all their money as just a straight up like investment firm, family office. Like it was like everybody had kind of their niche of what they did. And they started with a linear focus, and they were still focused in that area, but they had diversified interests and built the team to support that simply to preserve their capital.
So what would you say, and this isn't the first time I've heard that. I met a guy who managed money for 160 very high, ultra high net worth people.
Yep.
They have an average of 250 million per person with him. So he manages $40 billion. And he said the exact same thing. He's like, all of them made money in one vertical. And then once they made their money, their psychology changes in order to keep money, right? Because as entrepreneurs, man, we're going all in. We're willing to throw everything on the table, get rich or die trying kind of a vibe. And then, but that's not the way that you preserve wealth. That's not the way that you maintain it and sustain it long term, which was, it was eye-opening for me to hear that you got to completely change how you made money to then how you keep money, which makes a lot of sense. But at the same time, I think it's not normal understanding.
This episode of the Legacy Podcast is brought to you by the Legacy Boardroom Mastermind. So our goal is to give as much free information away as humanly possible through all of our social media platforms and try to help people with their businesses, help people with their lives. We also have something for people who want more one-on-one attention, which is Legacy Boardroom. Legacy Boardroom is a board of directors for your business. If you are doing up to about $10 million a year in gross revenue, you're making some money, you got some good things happening, but maybe you can't afford a C-suite of executives, of a chief marketing officer, a chief operating officer, a chief investment officer, a chief human resources officer, and you need access to these fractional C-suite executives. That's what this was built for, at a fraction of the price of what you can find anywhere else in the marketplace. So it's my actual team who have built multiple 7 and 8 and 9-figure businesses and real estate portfolios that is available every single day of the week on these daily boardroom calls. So any questions that you have, you can hop on, ask questions about operations to my COO, ask questions about acquisitions to my CMO, ask questions about raising private money to my chief investment officer, or team building to my chief HR officer. So they're available for you 5 days a week. Any questions that you have, any hurdles that you're facing, anything that you need, these guys are available to help you break through any sort of barriers and take your business to the next level so that way you can build a business that is designed to feed your life and your lifestyle. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more, check out legacyboardroom.com.
So when somebody comes to you and they say, or you see it posted online, it's like, oh, well, the average millionaire has 7 different streams of income. What are your thoughts on that?
Because they're average, because millionaire means nothing now, man. Like 7 figures, that's like 6 figures back in the day. Like saying, oh, you know what? It's also true that 62% of millionaires don't feel wealthy. Because just because you're a millionaire on paper doesn't mean that you're living a good life. There's a lot of broke millionaires. There's a lot of people that are rich on paper and paupers in life. And so, like, yeah, if you want to be a decamillionaire, you can't have 7 streams of income because it's 7 streams of distraction. Look, this is in my 20s. Dude. Yeah, this was me in my 20s. I was like, oh, cool. I started investing in real estate and I did well because of luck, not because of skill. So I'm like, oh, I should just do a bunch of that. But then I was like, oh, I'm going to start a hard money lending fund because I can make money there. Oh, I'm going to add 3 lines of business. I'm going to add a mortgage company, a property and casualty company, my financials. And by 2008, I had so many things that when one of the things dried up, everything else suffered. And I had no life. I got a lot of gray hair, as sexy as it may be now. And I was overweight at the time because I was overly stressed. And my wife was super annoyed with me because she felt like I was never present. I was chasing too many things. Like, first off, I think that wealth is ability to be present. It's a present. It's an ability to have peace of mind. Wealth is an emotion. And if we get distracted with so many things, we lose out on enjoying life along the way. Time with family, taking care of our health, having a little relaxation, rejuvenation. If it's all about more, bigger, better, faster, and then we chase so many things, that's a surefire way to be mediocre at best. Yes, you might become a millionaire doing that, but if you want to be worth 100 million or you want to make an impact of a billionaire, it's not going to be by being distracted with a bunch of small things. It's going to be by being extraordinary at one thing.
I agree 100%, man. I'm going through this right now in my business of just refinement of, I chase some shiny objects. I thought it'd be cool to buy an island, for instance. And I'm like, I'm not going to develop a friggin' island, right? It's not the highest and best use of my time. As cool as it is, it's just a distraction for me. And so I'll go rent an island later, right? But I'm selling my island right now. I'm selling a bunch of portfolio properties that are in states that are outside of where my team is located. And we're just consolidating, dude. Like,
love that.
It was cool to pound your chest and be like, oh, I own 5,000 apartments. It's a lot cooler and a lot more peace of mind. And I'm a lot more present. And I'm a better dad. And I'm a better husband, a better friend. And I'm just happier and in better health by having 2,700 units, right? And I'm probably going to scale back down to like 1,500 doors. So that way I can just focus my team on our property management software, which has way bigger potential of getting us to our financial goal that much faster. It's like real estate. It's got all the benefits of it without with way more scale to it, without having to take.
You
on
can
the
live wherever you want with that
stuff.
real estate. You don't have to pay property taxes on that real estate. You just pay when money comes in. There's a lot of advantage to that, right? There's a lot of scalability. So I love everything that you're saying there, because I was the same way. You know, I was like, oh, it sounds cool to have all this stuff, until it just is all consuming.
Yeah, it is, man.
And so now it's like, well, what's going to give me the most reach and impact, not what's going to give me more. Like, okay, so I bought this cabin. Love my cabin. It's on a river, and I was like, this is amazing. I'm going to buy a second cabin on this river. There was none for sale. I had to market, like, by having barbecues, talking to people, anyone that's ever going to sell, convince this guy to sell that was going to sell 3 years later, and say, I'll just rent it to you. And now that he's moving out and not renting it, I'm like, wait, I now have an extra 3.5 acres and another cabin to take care of. Is that really what I want? Because now I have to have someone employed to support me with that. Otherwise, I don't have free time, or I don't have downtime, because I have that to manage, and now I have another person. And it was weird, because it's just like more was better in my mind, instead of being like, is there utility? How am I going to benefit from it? And so, like, my world of more is more quality of life, not just more money. Like, yeah, I want more money if it's consistent with the life that I want. And I'm not willing to sacrifice a quality of life just for an extra buck, because in my 20s, my wife was like, I feel like a single mom. You're always on the road. You're always speaking. You say yes all the time. And now she's like, hey, it's okay if you leave the house sometimes. Like we're in a totally different place.
Get dressed today, Garrett.
Yeah. So I think that it's young ambition can lead us astray, but it's hard to discern opportunity from distraction. Every distraction looks like an opportunity, and it takes a real mental skill set to learn to say no to things that are good, to reserve yourself for only what is best and great. And if you do that, it takes an abundance mindset to say no and then say yes when it's perfectly aligned. I think it's like a Warren Buffett quote that he says, the difference between successful and highly successful entrepreneurs is the number of times they say no. A successful entrepreneur is addicted to yes. A highly successful entrepreneur says no, 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 and then says yes to something that's perfectly aligned with their vision and values. And I mean, that's the skill that I've really had to work on, because it's always tempting. There's always great opportunity. The more successful you are, the more it's going to come your way. But the reality is, what's the cost versus the payoff?
And is that how you get that clarity, right? For someone who's going through that right now, it's like, how do you create that clarity in what really identifies, are you moving in the direction toward that goal or away from that goal? How have you created that clarity in your own life of like, this is it, and I'm saying no to everything outside of these walls?
I never have more than 5 objectives at a time. And so if it's outside the objectives and someone brings me something, I'm like, wow, that sounds amazing. I'm completely committed right now. If that changes, I'll let you know, but thanks for thinking of me. I'll be happy to make a connection if something comes. The second thing is I have a thing called
a good tactful way of saying it too, right? Because guys like dude, how many people
we want to say yes. We want people
to
feel great.
Yeah, man, you want to help other people, but at the same time, it becomes this distraction. It becomes this, just because there's an opening in my calendar doesn't mean anybody can come in and take it, right? Like and society has groomed us to be like, oh, well, hey, are you open next Wednesday at 9:30 in the morning? And can we hop on a call? And you're like, oh, well, there's nothing booked at 9:30 in the morning. I guess I have to hop on a call with this person. It's like, no, you don't. You absolutely don't have to do that, right? And so I think having the clarity and then just being linearly focused, and you create one response, exactly like you said, of here's a tactful, classy, polite and kind way of saying no. You don't have to be a dick about it, right? I think there's this sweet spot of saying, hey, I'm 100% focused, right? This is what I'm focused on, and I appreciate you reaching out to me. Thank you. But this doesn't meet my long-term goals of what I'm focused on right now. I appreciate you looking for, reaching out to me. And at the same time, if that changes, I'll keep you posted. In the meantime, go and talk to this person, or just, don't offer anything. And that's a good tactful way of doing it, where it doesn't burn a bridge. Nobody's saying bad things about you behind your back. And at the same time, it keeps you, clean and focused. Do you have like a personal assistant that does a lot of that stuff and kind of acts as a gatekeeper for you? Yeah,
I do. I have an assistant. I don't even check email. She runs my entire email, because that's that's someone else's agenda email. Like, I didn't ask for those emails to come in. And so then we meet once a week and she kind of goes through the things, or she'll just copy something and put it in Slack. So I'm only seeing the things that I need to see. And the other thing is, I really have lost a lot of wealth over my life being sloppy, saying yes to things that I didn't have the capacity to say yes to, and therefore neglecting other things. So now everything that comes in my life, I'm like, do I have the capacity to be a steward, or am I going to be sloppy? Because sloppiness kills wealth. And so I don't want to do anything mediocrely. I don't want to do, like when I decided, you cited a comedy special, I went all in. I mean, we got it on Amazon Prime. I was like, but it took real like I had to say, what am I going to clear in my life to do this? Or when I write a book, it's like, if I'm writing a book, I want it to be world class. I'm going to go through a process. It's going to take some time. So I'm definitely going to have to say no to other things in order to have the capacity, the energy, and the ability. So I use a thing called the idea optimizer that I wrote. It's just 10 questions. If I have competing ideas that are all so seductive that I really want, but I'm only going to say yes to one, I'll run it through the optimizer to find out which one scores the highest. And then I always have this format. I go, what am I doing now? It has to live in my calendar in the next 2 weeks, and it has to be part of my 5 objectives. What am I doing later? I can get it done in the next quarter, but it doesn't have to live in my calendar just yet. What am I never doing? I just have ideas sometimes like, that's good. I'm never doing that. I'm just going to release it. But my favorite thing is the parking lot. I just have a lot of stuff in the parking lot that I can revisit later so that my mind goes, okay, well, we can focus on that when we have capacity and bandwidth. But half the time, the parking lot, it's ideas that sounded good at the time, and then 6 months later, they're not that good of an idea. And then others, I'm like, yeah, that's always the idea that I've wanted. Like, it's been in the parking lot for years to really build a media company and do something on social media. I've been very lackadaisical. I haven't been a professional about it. I've been an amateur. With my books, I'm a pro. On stage, I'm a pro. With our programs, I'm a pro. Well, guess what? Next quarter, media hits the top of the list, and it's been in the parking lot. I hired a creative director. I have a video director. I have a written director. You're going to start seeing a lot more of me online, putting out great content versus just me flipping a video up and saying something without much thought. So but it was in the parking lot for years, and now I'm ready.
I love it, man. I love it. And from personal experience, I will tell you, creating that personal brand online, like, you have all the content, you have the reputation, you have all the accolades in order to build a massive personal brand online. And like, you doing that is going to make such an impact in other people's lives. And it's going to create just this full circle setup for you where, like, speaking engagement, if you even want to do that, right? Selling more books. I know you have that awesome coaching platform, which I want to talk about in a moment here too. But like, I think creating the personal brand, it greases the wheels for everything else that you want to accomplish. It is like the ultimate business card of, like, dude, on that software, we were actually out and we hired a firm in order to do social media content about this for like a year and a half now. And we don't even have a product out there, but we're just always creating the content around it. And they're dropping it every single day, or like 5 days a week on our Instagram channel and stuff. And we go to the bank to go set up our own payment facilitation, which, dude, you need to be in business for a long time and show a bunch of money moving through accounts and all this other stuff in order to do that. And they saw us on social media. And because they saw us on social media, we got into rooms and having conversations with people where they allowed us to get into the payment facilitation world and get things going for our software before we ever generated $1 of revenue, which never would have happened if we didn't have a social media presence, right?
That's awesome.
Amount of credibility that it lends to you in space is, like, I think it's the highest and best use of my time today, because it makes everything else run more fluid in our business.
It's so funny because I used to have a radio show 5 days a week, 2 hours a day, before podcasts came out. And right when podcasts came out, I was burned out. I was like, I'm tired of doing this 5 days a week, 2 hours a day. And I kind of missed the boat. And I was always like, I don't want to do a podcast. And I would always looked at social media as like, social media is really bad for people. And now I've just transformed my thought process to be like, I have great content that if I don't put it in the world, that it doesn't benefit people.
Yep.
And social media gives me a platform to do it at a very, free for people. If they never work with us, we can actually help them, and it will build my brand, which is of great benefit to me. And I just enjoy it. Like, I love when people run into me at an airport and recognize me from a video or a book and we have a conversation. My wife rolls her eyes, but I love it. I love the conversation. It's like they feel like they know me. I get to know them. It's like, that's a cool, I don't want that to be a bombarding thing every day, but it's like, you just realize your words matter for people. The content matters for people. And I think that in finance, we need a place where people are focused on what wealth really means to them and what legacy looks like to them. And we need to get to a place where lifestyle matters along the way, and they invest in themselves and grow their skill sets and grow their value, not just try to grow a portfolio they know little about, and not just, destroy their health and energy working themselves to death. And so I think it's an important message. And that's why I think you and I resonate so much with each other. And I'm just willing to invest in that. I'm willing to build a team. I'm willing to go pro. I'm excited about it. I just started doing these. I hired my video director's already on board part-time before we officially start. So we've been filming some videos and I'm having a blast. I'm finding the joy, and I've spent years thinking about how would I do this? What would I want to do? I don't want to copy what other people have done. I want to do it the way I want to do it. So I've finally found that. And I do think it's going to pay off in a huge way for the brand.
I agree, man. And I think a big mistake people make with creating content is trying to be somebody else, right? Hey, I want to be like Gary Vee, so I'm going to cuss all the time. Well, if you don't cuss, right, you're going to just come off as inauthentic. If you do cuss, then guess what? Gary Vee's got a great following, and there's going to be a bunch of people who also cuss, and they're cool with that. If you are very spiritual, you go to church all the time, you talk about religion all the time, then guess what? Keep on talking about that. You're going to attract those people. I got a buddy who's a former firefighter who's now a real estate guy. And he talks about how he was a former firefighter. So he's got all these followers of policemen, of firefighters, of EMS folks, and like blue collar workers who now follow him and have side businesses or have real estate portfolios and invest in his deals with their 401ks and all that stuff, because he just leaned into what he does for what he and who he is as an individual. And you're going to attract that tribe by just being authentic and being genuine. And totally. Dude, you do a great job at that. And so I'm not worried about that from your perspective, but dude, leaning in with your energy and your focus, man, is going to crush. So I'm really excited to see you on the rise on that front.
Yeah. I kind of look at it like, when I was first dating my wife, you get that early romantic, exciting phase. And I'm in that phase with this whole, we're going to be starting the whole media side. Like, we're just the brainstorming's fun. Just some of the first pieces. Like, my creative director sent me the most hilarious thumbnail. It looked like a South Park episode. It said "How to Get Filthy Rich," and it was me as a South Park character. And I was like, dude, those little things, that's gonna be fun to do. Little things like that, And
I love it.
It's just cool that with the AI tools, how you could build that kind of stuff. And it would be really me, but like, when we could turn that into a cartoon, that's just fun, because back in the day, how expensive is that kind of stuff, I know. And now it's like something that we could do right away.
Immediately. So speaking of AI, let's talk, how do you see artificial intelligence affecting personal finances? Do you think it's going to improve? Do you think it's going to create more distractions? How do you see it helping people and also hindering people in getting this legacy and identity figured out, and then pursuing that financial freedom?
And here's how it's already improved things for us. Like, legacy, for some people, they feel like, I've got to be wealthy to start building a legacy. So we created these AI tools, because in What Would the Rockefellers Do, I really talk about 5 key components. The first one is having the proper trust, so you own nothing but control everything. Second is how you fund that with a certain insurance policy that perpetuates the wealth from generation to generation, putting that insurance on yourself and your kids and your grandkids. Then the third piece is a family office, which is having a comprehensive financial team that kind of works with you. Then a family retreat, which is how you invest in your heirs and create the rituals and the traditions and even the symbols of your family that matter. And then finally, a family constitution. So to create the symbols, like I created an actual family crest for my family. Now we have an AI tool where someone can get a family crest generated in a matter of minutes. It took me a long time finding an artist and all that kind of stuff. Family constitution, we have this AI prompt where you can have a conversation, or you can just type out, and in a matter of a few hours have a full family constitution. That took me years before. So it actually makes it more available and accessible. I also think that AI is going to remove the busyness. One of my business partners, we have a new company. He's the one that's going to come out as the creative director. And like, we're really doing well with promoting the Rockefeller book. And we're like, but the controllers I use for my other companies, they didn't want to use. And I was like, well, what are we going to do about this? And he just found an AI tool that is ridiculously efficient at doing bookkeeping. And so now we need minimal human involvement. So I think that AI is going to remove the busyness of, you know, how you said, I need to get a better loan on some of these things. I just don't have the time. It's a huge pain. AI is going to find those types of things for us so much more effectively and remove that so that we can actually focus on creativity. And we're going to use AI to become more value producers. Like, think about the AI tools that you're building. It allows people to get rid of that busy work, or even the AI tools that, you know, Matt's using in the creative side of things. It allows us to get access to something that might have cost us tens of thousands of dollars for $100, right? It's just like, it just allows the producer to be more productive. It's just going to be a problem for people that are caught in the past and not looking at what they can do to become more valuable. People that just think life's about saving money, going to work, trading time for dollars are in a lot of trouble, because what we have to do is use AI to become more valuable individually. So what can I do to have tools that save me time? What can I do to have tools that allow me to be more present when I'm with someone because I'm not caught up with the busy work? Like, I love that about AI.
I think that's a great impact. It's a tool to make somebody more valuable in whatever their role is or what their role could be, right? And utilizing it that way is really going to impact people and their personal finances because of how much more valuable they can be to an organization, and then see a return on that personally. So, no, that's great feedback, man. Kind of as we bring this episode to a close, I'd love to understand what your thoughts are regarding the economy today and what's happening with the current administration and tariffs, and how that's going to impact everything else, including, you know, they're talking about bringing back 100% depreciation again, and some of the tax cuts and stuff. What do you see playing out in 2025, and how do you think that's going to impact business owners and real estate entrepreneurs?
It's such an interesting time because we're so used to things moving slowly. And when things move slowly, it's easy to adjust, but things are moving so fast that it creates a lot of turbulence. You know, because with Doge, for example, nobody expected to have the type of AI tools to discover all of the things that are going on. And it's interesting that so many people are anti-Doge because of legacy media. Now, here's the thing. If RFK gets it where pharmaceutical companies cannot advertise, we might see the end of legacy media, because that's why legacy media exists, is big pharma advertising. Nobody's watching a pharmaceutical commercial and being like, you know, I need to talk to my doctor about that. That is a way for big pharma to silence the networks about the problems of those companies so that they don't get reporting. If that funding stops and legacy media goes away, it's going to be wild, because think about how much more, you know, crazy journalism, independent journalism, someone in their basement is going to be having more and more, because the internet's just more fascinating than that kind of media. But what's going to happen is all those people that have been indoctrinated in that thought process of they trust the government and they think that everything's, you know, being disrupted and is against them. Like, my parents are like, oh, we're going to lose our Social Security. I'm like, actually, I think you're going to have it be more safe, because we're starting to look at the fraud. But what you're going to find is we're in a battle of people, and a lot of people are convincing everyone this is wrong and bad, and other people are saying this is what's been needed for years, and that's what's creating all this turmoil, right? It's just creating so much uncertainty and so much like frustration. But if you're not, what I find is entrepreneurs are infinitely more optimistic and non-entrepreneurs are more pessimistic, because those that feel like they have the control to navigate the chaos feel comfortable. Those that feel like they're out of control because they're getting a paycheck from someone and they're not sure what's going to happen to that business because it's either a government contract or heavily reliant upon something like that, they're fearful and lashing out. The bottom line is we're all just going to have to get better at being in the game of accountability and value creation and allow corruption to be removed. And that's just going to be super messy. It's going to be super frustrating. And let's get on the same page of where can we all work together to make a better planet versus my team versus your team. Like, how ridiculous, like my team versus your team in the same country is becoming so divisive. And like, people that would a year ago speak out against the very vile acts that are happening today are now committing them because they feel insanely out of control. We have to start saying, what is the action you can take today to be of more value? What are the things that you could do to create your own job and find your own way? Because look, my wife and I today were talking about the Tesla robots that could become like housekeepers and taking care of cooking. She's like, what will stay-at-home moms do with that time? I'm like, they'll probably create side hustles. We'll start seeing an explosion of art. We'll see some people that just watch more TV. Hopefully people spend more time with their kids. It's going to be wild because we just haven't been prepared for that. So I can't really predict at this rate too many things. I think that, you know, we have a lot of regional banks that are financing far too much commercial property. So interest rates are going to continue to have downward pressure, because when those loans renew, if interest rates, you know, rise or don't go down, we're going to find a lot of defaults, and those banks are going to have a really big problem. Again, we're going to see government interference in that point. So I think that that's one aspect. But as an entrepreneur, I feel so optimistic and excited, because I think that people are finally going to be like, I got to take control of my life. I got to do something about my future. I can't rely on someone else. And that level of responsibility will create a whole new level of productivity.
I agree 100%, man. I think the whole idea of extreme ownership over your situation and being able to now, Dan, think about how empowering that is for people who haven't thought that way. And I could see how that's very fearful and how very intimidating for some folks. But the reality is, if you take 100% ownership over your life and 100% ownership over your business and 100% ownership over this, it's like, it's actually builds more confidence in you to go and attack things in a productive and positive and progressive way, versus just being a victim all the time. And so it's really, really cool to see things get stirred up, right? As much as, you know, like the market's not dictated on what's happening. It's based on the speculation of what's going to happen. And that's why you've seen the stock market going up and down and, you know, all these discussions happening. It's not based on, nothing's actually changed. You know, the announcements on tariffs and stuff are coming out, and like none of that stuff has actually been implemented yet. And if it does, then what will it do? The market's going to change based on the speculation of people, but not based on what's actually happening. But if you can navigate that and you understand that you're in control of your life and you can make these decisions to be proactive instead of just reactive, and increase your skill set to be more valuable to the marketplace, to then be more valuable to your business, to then increase your revenue, and then understand this. It's just, dude, it all goes back to the personal development side of things and investing in yourself, investing in your skill sets.
Grow your value.
And everything else will fall into place.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Let's stop. I'll just say something that's maybe a little bit we don't need the stock market anymore. The stock market was created in a time where people raised capital through public companies. That's all raised through private capital now.
Yeah.
When people go public, it's an exit strategy, not a way to grow a company.
Yeah.
And so you have all these people that know nothing about the stock market, handing all their hard-earned money over to it, and then their entire life and their mindset gets decimated when something that they had no control over goes down. I have $0 in the stock market. I invest aligned with my investor DNA. I'm growing my businesses. I look at each book I write as a piece of real estate that I want to continue. Like Killing Sacred Cows, I wrote in 2008. It's still in the top 100, top 50 of Amazon's, wealth management. It's still in, it was like #1 as a life insurance book just a few weeks ago. Years and years and years later, because I treat it like a piece of real estate, and I rewrote it just like in real estate. 15 years, you'd change the carpet, you'd repaint it. Like I just redid the whole thing, and because I have control over that, and I have a business with Multiplier that I have a financial community. That's what I'm investing in. That's what I'm growing. I'm saying, how can we add more value to our existing customers? How can we make this deep dive even more valuable? What can we do to, and that whole conversation is, as the economy's changing, we're continuing to grow because we're in the value conversation, not in the risk conversation. We're in the confidence conversation, not in the lack of control conversation. And that's unfortunately a lesson people are going to have to learn.
Dude, I agree 100%. #1 best investment you can ever make, with the greatest return on investment, is in yourself, in your own 100%. Skill sets, in your own network, the community that you can create, right, and be a part of. #2 best investment you can ever make is in your own businesses, right? Instead of taking $100,000 and go and put it in the stock market or even a piece of real estate, dude, put it in your own company, into hiring somebody that's going to create a 4x return on investment, or marketing dollars that create a predictable 2x return on investment, right? That then generate more revenue and more of a snowball effect that then, keeps everything moving forward. It's like, dude, those are where you should be investing every single dollar when you're in this growth phase of growing a new vertical in your business.
Love it, man.
So,
We're aligned.
dude, I love it. Tell me about what you're doing right now, because we were talking offline. I think it's such a high value offering that you guys have, that you created recently. And I want to make sure people know about it and then know how to connect with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best thing to do is if they just DM me on Instagram, I'll respond and give them the tax navigator. But we have this multiplier community where, for people that are entrepreneur, they have to have a certain minimum amount of income, but we're not looking for the really ridiculously wealthy ones. Those sometimes I do one-on-one coaching with, but we go through a deep dive and we say all those things I talked about at the very beginning. We look at it, there's no charge for it, and then we do the report of findings. If they're a fit for our community, then we show them 2x, 4x, 10x return on their investment by joining the community. We have, a comprehensive financial team. So we've got accountants, we've got attorneys, we've got investment advisors, we've got cash flow specialists, we've got risk managers, we got all that kind of stuff. But they get a one-on-one person to work through everything with them. But I teach every week in a group. So it's all about how do they make more money? How do they keep more of the money they make? How do they grow their money with investor DNA? And how do they grow themselves so they live a life that they love and create a life they don't want to retire from? So that is about getting financially fit, independent, and free. And that's our community. So it's application. If you just, get in a conversation with us on DM, we'll find out if it's a good fit for you. If not, we do have other great resources and we want to make sure to help people.
Dude, and by the way, like, you can talk about pricing and all that kind of stuff, but it's like very reasonably priced and such high value for what it is. So definitely connect with Garrett. Send you a DM. We will share your website and your
awesome.
social media links in the show notes, so that way people can connect with you directly, man. But dude, I appreciate you being here. Thank you for all the insight. I can't wait to see you in person again sometime soon.
Yeah,
and if I can ever be a resource, dude, by any means, let me know. And let's collab on social media stuff and cross-pollinate communities.
Yeah, dude, my co-author of Rockefellers might be an amazing person to speak at your event. I know I've spoken at a bunch of your events, so they've heard me, but he's a phenomenal speaker, different message than I've shared. So if you ever want a good connection, you let me know, man.
I love it. I appreciate it, man. Well, thank you so much, and excited to see how you continue to grow things in 2025.
Take care, man.
Hey, well, thank you for being here. Hopefully you got a ton of great value out of this episode. We try to give as much free value as possible across all of our social media platforms. So please make sure that you're connected with us. We are at Legacy Wealth on YouTube. We are at Tim Bratz on all other social media platforms, and we're available anywhere that you listen to podcasts. The best way that you can support this podcast is by just subscribing to our YouTube channel, by liking the video, by commenting on it, and by sharing it with anyone else who might get some great value out of it. So thank you again for being here. We'll see you next Sunday on the Legacy Podcast.